I have Shah Haq here. Can you maybe give me a 2-second, 30-second elevated pitch on you?
Sure. Thank you, Jason. I'm the innovator and engineer behind Oxygen Health Systems, the series of chamber that we have. We have 40 different kinds, and we are the innovators behind these chambers.
Okay, and I have Taja Abitbol, and she's going to give a little pitch on her, what she does.
Hi, my name is Taja, and I've been biohacking before it was a thing, before it had a name. And I don't think it's extreme. I do think it's essential. And I'm also a pioneer in bringing biohacking, wellness, longevity into the luxury hotel world. I own clinics in luxury hotels.
And I have Dr. Warren Brown here. Can you give us a little elevator pitch on what you do?
Thanks, Dr. Jason. So Warren Brown, I'm a naturopathic physician. I do a couple things. One is work with a laboratory called Genova Diagnostics, a great laboratory if you're interested in biohacking. And I have a private practice as well, Clinical Advances for Sport.
And we have Lea Llovio, and can you please tell us about yourself here?
My name is Lea Llovio, like love you, because I do. And I always like to say that. I'm a conscious wellness consultant. I work with private clients, and I work with many doctors, practitioners, and many medical organizations on how to optimize the mental, emotional, and spiritual to affect the physiological healing practices that we all do and the biohacks.
I love that. So we have a great panel here today. So I want to start with, what does biohacking mean to each one of you? And Shah, we'll start with you.
All right. I guess I'm the first one. Biohacking to me is not leaving any stone unturned. As innovators, we are limited to what we can do based on the technologies that's out there. But as also innovator, it gives us a tremendous opportunity for us to ask the question, what if? What if? What if? What if I do this? What if, besides just taking the pharmaceutical drugs, and by the way, I do have a pharmaceutical background. I worked at AbbVie Pharmaceutical, the third largest global pharmaceutical company. What if, besides the pharmaceutical drug-based medication, what if I do something else? I take my life a bit more seriously, be mindful of what I put in my body, put the thoughts that I know conducive for better health, and once we ask these questions, it creates a whole bunch of opportunities. So to me, biohacking is leaving no stones unturned.
I love that. Taja, same question. What does biohacking mean to you?
So biohacking means so much to me, but really it's not getting to the point where you break down and have to go to a doctor or a hospital or take medication. It's preventing that and doing all of these unbelievable modalities and treatments, peptides, NAD, all of the stuff that we all love, to prevent and build your system and improve your DNA so that you don't break down and end up in the hospital or get sick. Knock on wood, I never get sick.
Okay, Warren, what does biohacking mean to you?
To me, biohacking is really about finding answers and being more proactive with health. I think it looks a little bit different to everybody, but for me, it's largely data-driven. I use laboratory testing to help answer those kinds of questions, but it's really kind of all for the purpose of optimal health.
Okay, Lea, what's biohacking mean to you?
Biohacking for me means that we're not only looking at the physical aspects of healing, at optimizing our blood-brain barrier, at optimizing our mitochondria, at optimizing our brain chemistry. We are also looking at every single input. It's actually about being gently extreme, about deciding that, hey, I'm actually going to look at every thought I have. about every technology I incorporate, about every peptide I use, about what kind of devices I use. Because when we have this consciousness about the actual biohacks, about the therapies, about the medicine, we really do biohack everything, body, mind, spirit. And I believe that everything is connected. We're in this vessel right now, so we must optimize physically as much as we can, and also mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, so that we have a great place to dance on this planet.
Beautifully stated.
That was great. Thanks, Lea. Shah, I have a question for you. You're big into hyperbaric oxygen. Can you give the people here some idea of what's fact and what's fiction about hyperbaric oxygen?
Sure. So there are 14 indications. So you already know that. If you could just simply go to fda.gov and learn about the 14 indications. So I'm not going to talk about those 14 indications. There are plenty of doctors here in this room. They can teach you more about those. So let's talk about the emerging applications of HBOT, or hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Primarily, there are two different types: anything that's 1.5 ATA, or 50% greater than the normal atmospheric pressure, which moves 760 millimeter of mercury. That's normal atmospheric pressure. 50% of that would be called MHBOT. M stands for mild. And then you have the higher pressure oxygen chambers that are considered the full hyperbaric, such as 1.6, 1.5, going all the way to 2.0. Let's talk about the emerging applications of that. Surgeons, doctors, MDs, and other clinicians alike these days are using hyperbaric for newer applications, such as wound healing, traumatic brain injury. None of them are FDA approved, just like peptides, exosome, young plasma, yada, 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 all of those. But nonetheless, can we deny the fact that the patients are reporting benefits? Quite a few of you are here, physicians and doctors and surgeons. When your patients come to you with the reported benefits, that is something that the doctors take seriously. So it's those applications that we listen to from the doctors and physicians, and we work together to figure out how we can improve the emerging applications from the perspective of hyperbaric.
I love that. Great answer. So, Taja, for you, I want to know, how do you educate your patients to think long-term, system-wide, not just, I want to fix this problem right here, right now, and not think about 10 years in the future?
Well, we do both. We do some, not quick fixes, but we can give you treatments that boost your energy and mood instantly. But long term, we give protocols that scientifically have proven to increase your lifespan. And we have different protocols that we offer our patients, and they are very effective. And I love when I get messages every day saying that, wow, I am so much better. I have so much more energy. I'm performing better. I'm happier. I look better. My relationships are better. These protocols affect every part of your life.
I love that. Warren, a lot of biomarkers out there. You test for a lot of these things. Which ones are really important and which ones are just kind of noise people just test for no reason?
That's a good question. This one might surprise some people, but I really think vitamin B12 measured in the serum is not a very good marker. My opinion on that has to do with the fact that when we look in the serum for B12, we're looking at oxidized B12 for the most part. B12 has to be in the reduced form in order to be usable, has to travel into the cell in order to do that across transcobalamin receptors. So there's a lot of reasons why that's not a great marker. Instead, to get a sense of B12 status, I generally look at things like homocysteine, which is a blood metabolite, and methylmalonic acid, which is a urine metabolite. Even some of the conventional medical organizations are starting to come around to that idea, but that's really kind of a metabolomic type of approach to looking at nutrient status. Super important. So I'm not a big fan of serum levels of vitamin B12. I think it's more counterproductive than it is helpful, frankly. But I would say as an alternative, you could get things like methylmalonic acid through organic acid testing, which is a super useful tool for looking at mitochondrial function, looking at neurotransmitter metabolism, and many other things, detoxification included. So that's probably one of my favorites.
Awesome. Thank you. Lea, when you have high performers that you're working with, when they're optimized, they're doing everything right now, but they haven't worked at their inner state. What do you tell them? What do you see happening if they're not optimized on the inside with their inner state?
Well, first I want to say that there's different levels, right, of being optimized. And there's different levels of high performers. There's different levels of purpose, desire, ambition in life. So depending on the level of desire, the level that you have to be optimized, I have actually found that most people that truly want to be fully optimized do include the mental, emotional, and the spiritual, because they have a clear understanding that if they don't feel happy, if they don't feel at ease, sometimes all of this technology and all of these protocols really, they can work up to a certain point, but we have to work on what we think about these protocols. And we do have to do the calming work. We have to do the trauma work. Everybody comes with a little bit of trauma, very few people have a perfect life. So when people really tend to their mind, their body, their spirit, and their emotions, this is when they really do optimize. And I have found that, most people that are high performers actually do incorporate some sort of thought process strategy, some sort of mindful practice, and some sort of spiritual practice to enhance all of the physical work that they're doing to optimize.
Perfect. So for the whole panel here, we've all had people we've worked with who put 10 interventions together. They think they're doing everything right. When does this optimization turn into psychophysiological chaos and it's just not working at all for them?
The chaos would turn in when one is only adhering to a set of protocols, but forgetting to adhere to the basics. For instance, I went to bed 2 o'clock in the morning, but I got up and I did my little bit of workout routine.
Good.
To me, that's basic. I know that I'm consuming a lot of hotel foods, but nonetheless, I'll go back to my home base, Chicago, and I will get back to my routine, which is the right kind of food and so on and so forth. So chaos would happen when we pick one thing, but we're ignoring the basic. To me, you can't ignore the basic and expect the miracle, longevity or otherwise. I listen to my doctor. I keep him posted that I'm using hyperbaric. I have sustained 3 spine surgeries from my years of martial arts. I have a black belt, and that caused a lot of issues. But nonetheless, adhering to the basic, keeping my physicians informed that this is what I'm doing, do you have any objections? And I think as long as we cover those basics, I don't believe there should be any chaos.
Perfect. Taja.
I totally agree with that. But also, I just heard something fascinating from not the speaker before our panel, but the speaker before that who was doing the hand codes. He said that if you're not living your life purpose, then really nothing else can help. And I agree with that because it made me think that I feel that I'm living my life purpose. And if you're doing all the biohacking and eating right, sleeping right, but you hate your job, then you're not going to be happy at all. None of that is going to work. So it's just, everything in life counts. Whatever you're doing, you have to be happy, and your body has to be functioning at its highest, and in every part of life, your relationships. So if your relationships are not good, you can biohack everything, and you're not gonna feel good. So it's just all around.
I love that. Warren, same question.
It's a good question. I think sometimes we are our own worst enemy when we try to take on a little bit too much. Knowing when we get over our head, I think is super important, and a good way to help avoid analysis paralysis, especially when we're coming into analyzing different interventions and how our own body is responding to those things. So I think having the assistance of somebody on the outside when we're treating ourselves in particular is really helpful.
Perfect. Lea, this is yours.
I love this question because I think some people have an aversion to chaos. And anytime we have an aversion to anything, it's far more difficult to improve that situation. And so sometimes, actually most of the time, when we learn something new, let's say we become an optimized human, we become a biohacker, we do become very rigid, right? Because then we're suddenly like, we see our markers improving, our VO2 max is better, oh my God, I got an amazing sleep score last night. So we can become kind of obsessed with this and then be affected when, oh my gosh, I thought I had a good night's sleep and I only got 40 minutes of REM. And this is where the chaos comes in. So I like to introduce people to have some grace with themselves, some radical self-acceptance, and to just kind of not hold on too tight and not too loose, and not allow that to become a source of chaos, but instead allow it to become something of, curious. Like, oh, isn't that curious that I thought I had a great night's sleep and my Oura ring doesn't show that I did. So it doesn't have to become chaos, but also when we see the chaos, it's great to notice it and say, oh, look how rigid I'm being about this. That actually stresses my body and is not going to help me. And so maybe we just see it in a gentle way. And when we get chaotic about it, that's where the radical self-acceptance comes in. And we're not like, oh, there I go getting neurotic and chaotic about my biohacks. Instead, we're like, okay, well, I got a little neurotic about that, and just be kind to ourselves. And then everything starts to calm down again.
So flexibility is what you're saying.
Flexibility, yes. Equanimity, flexibility, gentleness, kindness, compassion to ourselves and to everyone else.
Great. Shah, so when it comes to dealing with hyperic oxygen, a lot of different people have different ideas when it comes to dose and duration, and data backs up higher doses isn't always the best. What is the sweet spot that people should be looking at to getting hyperic oxygen, and how many should they be getting?
So I'll refer to some clinical data. As an innovator and coming from a STEM field, I rely on data. I listen to some of or rather read the studies. So I'll mention the Efrati studies, the Tel Aviv University, Dr. Shah Efrati. Sweet spot, based on what I gather and listening to him, is the 2.0 ATA, or 100% greater than the normal atmospheric pressure. How frequently should you be using it? According to him, 3 to 5 times a week, each session 60 minutes. For you to reach to a steady state, you must give a break, and I'll break that down in just a few seconds, and then complete the 30 to 40 sessions. So recap. In a Monday through Friday schedule, you should be using hyperbaric chamber based on this study's summary in a nutshell, 3 to 5 times a week, 2-day break, and then 30 to 40 times, and then back to your data that you want to compare, whether you have improved or regressed or digressed. So that would be the general rule of thumb. Some physicians and some surgeons may suggest otherwise, but that is the sweet spot in the industry today among practitioners.
So Taja, you have a lot of IV experience over the years. When it comes to IV use in patients, where do you see cellular repair being this is what we're going for, we're looking for this, versus people chasing temporary feel good from IV therapy?
Well, when we're consistent with the treatments and don't get deficient, because we're all dehydrated, mineral, antioxidant, amino acid, vitamin deficient. It's very easy to get deficient if you're on long flights all the time, if you're not eating right, not sleeping right. When you replenish your system with IV therapy, hydration, all of the vitamin, minerals, amino acids, antioxidants, NAD, you see the difference. You really feel the results.
I love that. Warren, if you could pick one biomarker to make 90% of the decision making, what would that be?
It's a good question. I couldn't do it. The people that I work with, I feel like, demand a thorough assessment. So often that comes down to me looking in the blood, in the urine, in the stool, and in the saliva. I don't do that all at once, but I feel like those really help me to target my therapies and really identify those pathways that are inhibited and work on unlocking those. So I don't think I could do just one. I thought about this, and I really can't.
What about 5?
5. All right. Yeah, I'd probably do an organic acid test, an amino acid test, fatty acid test, stool test. I've run out of room.
That's
already.
good. We're fine. At least those are some starts for people to look at.
Thanks.
Lea, in this area of biohacking, we have devices, we have data, we have peptides, we have IVs, hyperbaric oxygen, all these things out there, and all the data is out there. What are we missing from just looking at the biology side and looking at only this side of devices and all the peptides? What is it with the emotional state that we're missing that's not being looked at?
First, I want to begin by saying that, we're so lucky to have all of these devices and to be able to discover almost anything that's wrong with us now. We can fix almost everything, and there is definitely a place for the devices. However, one, I like people to remember that these devices exist, these protocols, these strategies, these biohacks all exist because somebody at some point really wanted to help humanity. So they're all coming from a very good place, right? And when we think about that, some people, for example, are very anti-pharma, and I understand that. But we have to remember that at some point when a medicine was created, in the beginning, the intention was very good. And it was really to help people heal. It was to help the world. And so when we remember that, we always have to go back to the original intention of all of these devices. And sometimes we don't have to work too hard at thinking, oh my gosh, am I missing? Like some people are like, am I missing this spiritual piece? Am I missing the emotional piece? Many of the doctors that I work with are very brilliant and they're very scientific. And some of them have said that to me. Look, I travel all over the world. I'm a scientist. I'm a researcher. I'm an educator. Am I missing that part? But they are living in an inspired state. And I tell them, you are doing the spiritual work because you're going all around the world doing what inspires you. Like Taja said, purpose. They're doing their purpose, so the emotional and the spiritual is infused into everything that they're doing. So it just all goes back to really seeing, where am I coming from? Applying these strategies or creating these supplements or giving somebody a protocol. Most of the time, everyone who's coming to this world of wellness is already coming from an elevated spiritual state. They might not call it that, but it really does come from the most amazing states, which is a desire and a purpose to help heal the world and heal ourselves one person at a time.
Nice. So for everyone here, all the technology we have, is this technology going to replace or only amplify the foundational behaviors that we should be doing? Sunlight, sleep, movement, and the like. So is technology going to only take it away? Will you not need these things, or will it make it better?
I particularly don't believe that it would go away. I believe Dr. Andrew Weil from Harvard Med, who basically is the father of integrative medicine. So I myself come from a huge line of physicians in my family, and if I take a look at their views in this, I think there is a new horizon where, as more and more physicians are also getting trained in integrative medicine, functional medicine, it would become a lot more mainstream. Example, the founder of the company, Mike Carroll, who is like a brother figure to me, he was diagnosed with stage 4 non-Hodgkin lymphoma. And that's when he decided that he needs to do something outside of the realm of pharmacological-based solution. Fortunately, Dr. Patel, who is also a board-certified physician in radiology oncology, he's also a practitioner of integrative medicine. What I'm getting at is when physicians as such, who are also the pioneers in the integrative medicine, as well as years of experience in radiology or oncology for this particular matter, they too are seeing the benefits from the reported results from the patients. I don't believe it's going to replace. I think it's going to be superimposing, creating more opportunities as these modalities are becoming mainstream. Now, a lot of clinical research work needs to be done, so you could attest this information, and then additional research results through which new frontier will open, where more assurance in a double-blinded placebo test and regular clinical studies that would be conducted, through which I believe it will not replace, rather it would complement.
Okay. Taja.
So the modern world we are living in, most of long-term illness is caused by environmental toxins. Like our grandparents did not have these toxins that we are experiencing nowadays. So I believe that all of the biohacking modalities available help us recover because there's so much more toxins out there. But Mother Nature is still the answer. That's the reason I live here in Miami, because the sun and the ocean is necessary for me. So I think biohacking, IVs, all of that is just enhancing. But the ocean, the minerals that are found in the ocean are the exact minerals that are found in, that our bodies are composed of. So I still need the ocean and I still need the sun, but all the biohacking is welcome as well.
I love that. Warren.
I always say we can't out-supplement a bad diet, and we can't out-supplement not exercising. And there's only so much we can do to deal with cortisol and stress hormones if we're not helping to live the lifestyle to manage stress properly. So these things are super important, and I see the technology of biohacking being helpful, but not replacing those kinds of things.
Lea.
I think the technology of biohacking is actually definitely going to continue to enhance all of us as a society. All of the technology is usually there to do good works and to help us monitor ourselves. For example, Val Biohacker, who spoke yesterday, who's a dear friend, she and I have different concepts of the healing process. She's very scientific, and I'm more a little bit on the spiritual side. But we actually agree on this. Like, for example, she uses heart math, and she's noticed that if she has thoughts of compassion, her heart coherence goes up. And if she just is neutral, it goes down. So all of the technology has a wonderful place because hopefully it will become more mainstream, more affordable for more people, because then you will be able to see everything that you're doing, whether it's benefiting you, making you healthier, making you better, or actually interfering with your health and wellness and maybe even deteriorating it. So I love the technology, and I think it will continue to amplify and help us really optimize at higher levels than we ever even imagined were possible.
Got it. Shah, you've worked with a lot of pro teams before in practice. What separates athletic recovery from the hype we have with athletes jumping in hyperbaric and oxygen, from actual performance improvements?
So your question is hype versus...
Correct. Hype athletic. Athletes are talking about hyperbaric oxygen. They think it's great. What separates what they're doing from your typical performance people wellness?
Oh, okay, gotcha. So working with they call it director of high performance, almost all major professional teams, they have that, be that New York Yankees, New York Giants, and so on and so forth. They take it to the next level. So I would say we really shouldn't focus on what they do. Do the best that you can as a layman. Do the exercise, as Warren pointed out, the food, diet, and Lea pointed out about the mind's fullness and whatnot. I myself am extremely self-deprecating, push myself to the limit, and we really shouldn't compare ourselves with the athletes. Do the best you can. Even if you can afford a 1.5 chamber startup model, do that. I was trained by a personal trainer, martial artists, and so on and so forth. The instructors would say, do the basic, and then focus to elevate it to the next level. So I don't think we should compare ourselves with the professional athletes. They are the best of the best in that class. Let's just start with something slow. Start with the basic, and then the rest will come over time. So being self-deprecating is one thing, but I don't think we should beat ourselves up because some high performers, the women's soccer team, they're the world champion, and we shouldn't compare ourselves with that. So do the little you can, and let the body, let the next stage evolve naturally and viscerally rather than forcing ourselves.
Okay. Taja, I have a question about NAD here. So this is the buzzword. I'm sure everyone here has heard about NAD at some point. Now, what do you see as the data showing when it comes to consistently using NAD or just every so often using this?
I see a big difference when, well, not every NAD is made the same. We make our own NAD with no additives, no preservatives, and it's a game changer. I do see very good results from athletes as well. That's how I got into NAD to begin with, because I'm married to an athlete who played for the Yankees. So funny you should mention the Yankees. Yes.
My client.
Yes. And that's how I found out about NAD. And we do see extreme results when you are regular and do the right dose, the right protocol, as opposed to just doing it once in a while. It needs to build up in your system, and then you see the difference.
I love that. Warren, over-testing is the new over-treating. So many practitioners I know are over-testing or doing a lot of testing. When do you see the difference between over-testing and using the right amount of testing for patients?
It's a good question. I'm largely data-driven in my practice, so I definitely have seen that line between test to the point where you're answering clinical questions and test to the point where you've sort of overstepped there. I think it ultimately comes down to education about what the the capabilities of the testing are. Ultimately, the way I was trained to order testing is we're using it to help answer clinical questions about the person we're testing. So education is a large part of what I do at Genova Diagnostics. I consult with healthcare providers who have Genova accounts when they're looking for test options or they want to talk about test results. That's one of the things I do to help support that goal of educating. I also do a lot of that in my private practice and have started to offer some online courses to assist with that too. So teaching motivated athletes, biohackers, people who are interested, even healthcare providers, in how to use this type of testing in the athletic setting specifically.
I'm excited to take some of those courses myself, actually, so thank you. Lea, my question is going to be, what happens when practitioners forget their own energy as part of the actual treatment?
That is such an important question, right? Because most practitioners are somewhat of empaths, right? They started doing this practice of healing because they were very empathetic and they wanted to help people. And when a practitioner does not tend to their own needs, which is very frequent, and it's not their fault, it's just that the schedule is very tight, there's a lot of patients, there's a lot of clients, they will get the energy drain. So what I like to give practitioners are very simple tools to incorporate. I never believe in these extended strategies and protocols. I never tell anyone you need to meditate for 20 minutes every morning, because they usually have about 5, if they're lucky, before they get started. Some of my doctors are at the gym at 4 a.m. to get to clinic by 8 a.m. And so what we do is we do like some intentions in the morning, that just takes about 3 minutes, some good intentions for themselves, and they're very good intentions for how they want to serve the world, what they're grateful for, super easy things. And then throughout the day, this is where this energy drain can come in for many practitioners. Every time you have an engagement with a client, with a patient, you really are there giving them your all. You're giving them all of your attention, all of your energy, all of your wisdom. And I think most practitioners absolutely do this because they really, really care. And sometimes when they're very empathetic, what happens is the person walks out of the room, but let's say that patient has a very big illness. Sometimes the practitioner is still feeling that, right? They're human too, so it tugs on their heart. And what happens is, I call this a hook, right? So when you're with the patient, when you're with the client, you want to hook into each other. You want to engage with each other so that you can really provide the best care for them. But if we don't remove that little hook before the next patient, by the end of the day, you're super drained. So some of the tools that I give them are very simple. In between patients, do 10 squats, do some bouncing, do some tapping, play music for 2 seconds, and dance. Today, I think it was around 3 or 4 o'clock, I did some talks with some of the doctors here, and even with Olia and Mick, and everybody was a little bit tired, It's been 2 days, and we just turned on some music and we all started dancing. All of a sudden, everybody had a ton of energy. So we
Where was I? Where
were you? We need to do our dance next. And so I think that, just moving the body actually moves the energy. The energy doesn't have to be so woo or so mystical. It's actual physical energy, right? And as soon as we move our body and we intentionally say, look, I gave this person my 100% as my patient, but now I need to detach, I need to unanchor, I need to unhook, I need to move my body, get back to my center, my purpose, who am I and why am I here? And now I'm full for the next patient, for the next client. And if we do that in between each interaction, by the end of the day, we're not so energetically drained.
That's actually great. I'd love to start using that in practice myself, so thank you. I have a big question here for everyone. What is one thing that seems extreme right now in biohacking, but you think in 10 years would be normalized and be used in traditional medicine?
What is considered extreme today?
Well, maybe not for this crowd, but extreme in Western medicine. They'd say this is extreme, but in 10 years they'll start using it themselves regularly.
Wow, that's I can think of a few things. For instance, we don't really put that much emphasis on food. I think, especially here in the United States, the cheap available food that's readily out there, for us to be, consuming on a regular basis, I think there would be a wide awakening in terms of food, what we are consuming to sustain our body. So that would be one thing. Air quality would be another that I can think of. And we are also ignoring a huge segment of our water sources. I'm very particular about water, but I think that would become also very common mainstream in the next few years and decades. So, one more thing. I'm also quite particular about what kind of clothes I wear. There's certain fabric that I will not use as undergarments, never. So I think those things would become a lot more common knowledge, what certain polyester materials or certain poly-X type of compounds would do. So what we breathe, the water, the kind of food that we are putting in our body, and even the fabric with which the dyes are made out of. So those things are now perhaps a little wacky and pseudoscience, but people would start taking it a little bit more seriously. So that's my personal opinion.
So the toxic load that we're getting in every day is the big thing, takeaway. Okay. Taja.
I think that stem cell and exosomes, of the peptides, I think that's going to become more mainstream and seen in practices or hospitals even. What kind of results are you getting in your practice from all of those
The same
treatments?
amazing ones you get, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and we are seeing results that are just mind-blowing. So I don't see how it can be stopped or, kept away from the general public any longer. But I mean, I know it will take time, but we love the results that we're seeing. And I just think that in general, all biohacking, red light, oxygen, hyperbaric chamber, I think we're going to be seeing this in schools, in the corporate world, in the hospitality world. It's just going to be everywhere. It is the future.
I hope so. I agree on that one for sure. Warren.
I really think we're going to see a lot more growth in genomics and metabolomics and the gut microbiome, and seeing AI tools incorporated into that. Huge sets of data. We all know about genetic testing. A lot of us are newer to metabolomic testing, but these kinds of tools I see as part of a workup for a functional perspective. Conventional laboratory testing, we test something to rule out a disease. Metabolomics, genomics, etc. These are tests that are designed to look at function, and it's just a different perspective than the disease model that the conventional medical field adheres to. So hopefully we'll see a lot of growth in that in the next decade. Some of that is available now, but I want to see that become part of a standard workup for people.
Awesome. Lea.
And so the question was, what may seem extreme now that may become mainstream? I agree with Warren. I agree with everyone here, but I like what you were saying, because I think, like, for example, gene therapy. People are like, wait, what are you doing? You're messing with your genes? I think that will definitely become mainstream. I mean, I was at another conference, and, they could now actually preserve your brain, for example. Some people find this very extreme. They can create your perfect genetic double, your clone now, and they are working on having this so that eventually you need a kidney. Well, now you've already got an extra kidney that they can put in your body. So these things seem very extreme right now, and they may become at some point in time mainstream. And I would want to tie that into, again, the mental, emotional, and spiritual, that this is not a separation of spirituality and health. It's actually the desire to live and to have life continue at a high health span is the part of our spiritual side as well.
Great. One more question for everyone here. Now that you've all experienced all the people we have here and people we've listened to, is there anything in the biohacking world that you saw here that you want to try yourself when you leave?
Yeah, I mean, NAD, I was taking it, but I didn't realize that the regular NAD is not as effective. So I started to take the nicotinamide riboside. So that's something that I picked up only recently, and I'm a bit ashamed that I am in the technology, but I didn't study enough to understand the benefits. So I am taking that, and I've, seen the results, and I think I will continue to be open and study a little bit more. And as many of you practitioners yourself are bringing in a whole bunch of other things, exosome is something that's on my radar. I've tried the PRP and a whole bunch of other things, but so those are some of the things that I probably will take
Awesome.
from here, from this gathering.
Great.
Yeah.
Taja.
Yes, I want to visit the hand code man who was on the panel. What was his name? What is his name? Yes, I want to visit him if he's still here. And the lights, the light panels.
Light panels?
Yeah. Okay.
Warren.
Well, it looks like we're out of time, so lasers.
Okay, lasers.
Lasers.
And Lea, what about you?
Well, I've done it many times, but I want to do it on a regular basis. I actually want to do more HBOT. So hopefully I can have one of those in my home someday, like Valerie or Sony here, Val Biohacker, who I was mentioning earlier.
So I want to thank our amazing panel. Thank you for everyone showing up today, and this has been wonderful. Thank you.
Come join us at Biohackers World in 2026, coming to an area near you.